jump-starting the Victor Brooks page, still with that positivity posse message, the power of positivity. And, especially during this time, the quarantine, coronavirus, it's affecting the world. And sometimes it may seem hard to remember that there are things still that we can find as positives, as blessings, seen and unseen. And today is, like I said, it's a very special day for me because I have one of my favorite people on this planet in my 54 years of living, Dr. H. Gene Wright. Dr. Wright, you know what? Let me give you this. And this will also probably give you an insight of why this connection with Dr. Wright and myself, it locked in a long time ago. A merry, quote unquote, a merry heart has healing powers. Go and heal somebody with your smile. Now, if that's not positivity posse, I don't know what it is. You dig? Because that's what we need right now. We need as much positivity as we can. I want to give before I move on into this incredible conversation we have right here developed with Dr. Wright, I want to give much respect to our first responders, the people out there on the front line, our doctors, our nurses, our people in the medical field. We have family members who are right there working with the hospitals or the one-on-one. I also want to give respect to the police officers. I want to give respect to the ambulance drivers, the teachers, the teachers who are still teaching our young via satellite, via internet, keeping that education and that strain of positivity going as well through their educational platform. I want to thank even the truck drivers who are taking, when we go make our runs to the store once a week, we got the truck drivers that make sure that when we go in, it's something there we can buy. My heart goes out and my prayers go out to the people who have personally been affected by this coronavirus, by this whole quarantine, people who may have lost family members, close friends, their lives turned upside down. My condolences to you. My prayers for you. We also want to give a show of respect and congratulations and good vibe to the people who are coming out of it, who may have been sick over a while, who didn't know whether they were going to make it for a minute. You know what I mean? But they're here. And I remember seeing some news reports about nurses and doctors lined up while they're rolling, people in the wheelchairs out. And that's a positive feeling. You know what I mean? In the midst of it all, we can find something to be positive about. We woke up this morning. I'm able to talk to you. I'm able to see this iPad and this even though we're not recording in our studio as we usually do, we can still bring some positivity via technology, man. Once again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, y'all. Dr. H. Gene Wright. Over the years, Dr. Wright has been dedicated and a trailblazer to the psychological research arena. His focus has been on primarily people of color and the effects of depression and anxiety. He's a book author. He's a speaker. His book is entitled Find Strength in Your Struggle, The Miracle Within You. This book highlights Dr. Gene's concept of spiritual depression, how it impacts the spiritual core of people in all walks of life. Now, I'm speaking today as this is a personal thing with me. Because, and the reason why I have so much respect for this topic, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychological professional. I'm not someone who knows the detailed, integral names and connections of the brain and the mind. I respect that so much. But what I am is a family member who has been directly affected with mental illness. I'm a little emotional today, but it's going to be all right because not only am I able to speak on this subject, but I'm able to speak with someone who I respect highly. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to the screen Dr. H. Gene Wright, who took the time out of his schedule today to join us on this topic. And you know that most of the time, my show has to do with artistry, of musicianship, of how that positively affects our life and what we're doing day to day. But also, there's a positivity and understanding and respecting the topic of mental illness, you know? Now, am I with you now, Doc? Can you see and hear me?
I can see and hear you, brother.
And man, I can see and hear you too. Wendy, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Wendy.
You know what, y'all? That's the whole thing about this Facebook Live. I love the realness of this whole thing.
Yeah,
You
man.
know? And the people that know me, like Gene very well knows me, I'm not really into the whole pomp circumstance, get down of it all. But I love this genuineness. And
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, you can see the smile that this doctor has right now, which is going to make me read one of my favorite quotes about him again. It says, "A merry heart has healing power. Go and heal somebody with your smile."
My goodness.
Now, let me go this here. Now, I'm going to say it again because I don't know if anybody else may have heard or not heard. But over the years, Dr. Wright has been a dedicated trailblazer to the psychology research arena. One of his focuses have been on people of color and the effects of depression and anxiety. Dr. Wright's also a book author. His book is entitled Find Strength in Your Struggle, The Miracle Within You.
Yeah.
All about positivity again. I mean,
Yes,
it's
sir.
just back to back, back to back, back to back. Thanks again, Dr. Wright. Much respect for what you're doing, your
Thank,
dedication to mental health.
thank you.
I was on an emotional vent while we were technically trying to get this hooked up, but I think it's important for people to understand Victor Brooks is not a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Victor Brooks is not a psychologist. Victor Brooks is not someone who knows the science and intricacies of mental health, why it happens, the causes, you know. I am one of the millions of people. Like I said, it's an emotional topic for me, but I'm one of the millions of people who have been directly affected by mental health. Having, which I will, out of respect for the family member, I won't mention, but directly affected in the ways of affecting, watching that family member change
Mm-hmm.
in the middle. One day we're having a conversation that we can understand, or that I feel I can understand, and then the demeanor, the behavior. But then the next time, or something happens during a period of time where the behavior changes, the conversation is something that I don't recognize.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
And to hear you and read your book and to know what you've been doing, man, this is going to reach so many people and has already reached so many people. Um, Give us your side, Doc. This whole thing.
Yeah, well, man, you were so eloquent in your presentation of the realness of the challenges that befall us when we have mental illness. And let me just say that people talk about mental illness, and they forget sometimes that the other side of that is mental health. And so, what I've been in keeping with your program of positivity, I don't just focus on treating mental illness. I
Mhm.
also focus a lot of my time on health and wellness and how to
Come
remain
on.
and become well.
Yeah.
Because with every challenge, there is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to move on, even though there may be some organic issues,
Okay.
brain issues, there may be some hormonal issues,
Mhm.
to answer your question about the why. And then the thing is, some of the most brilliant people I've ever been privileged to meet,
Come
I've
on.
met in the throes of mental illness.
Yes.
I've met in their quest to become well.
Mhm.
And they've written books, they've written songs, they crafted dances, they've choreographed dances, they've done all these things. And so what some people may see as a burden, other people have looked at as a gift.
Come
And so
on.
I do not want to demean those that
Mm,
have suffered from, or the families that
mm,
have been challenged, because it's not just the burden of it, it's also the learning of it. And what
come
can we do to support one another? So the work that I've been doing for the last 20 plus years is to not just focus on the illness of it, but to
mhm.
focus on the learning of it, to
Come
focus on the opportunity of it,
on.
and to look at how resilient people are as they move towards their recovery.
Mm,
And what I can tell you, Vic, is that regardless of whether it's mental illness or substance use or trauma or
yeah,
stress, we
yeah.
are all in recovery from something.
Come on now.
Huh? We
Come
all
on
in
now.
recovery from something.
You know what? That's something else you used to say. I remember you used to say, we all just trying to make
We just try to make it.
it.
We just trying to make. And I learned a long
That's
time
so
ago,
real.
man, on any given day, yeah, if not for the grace of God, there go
Yeah,
I. And
yeah,
what I've
yeah,
told people is, man, on any given day, most people are doing the absolute best they can.
yeah.
And so let's support them.
There you
Let's
go.
wrap our arms around them, because the time's coming when I'm gonna need somebody to wrap their arms around me.
Around me.
And
That's
so what
right.
we do is we share this positivity that you speak on, man.
Mhm.
And then when we share it, it grows, brother. It grows.
But you know what, Dr. Gene, what are we missing? Not just us personally who are affected with loved ones, but as well, us. And is there a difference between what we may be missing as family members and loved ones, as society as a whole? What are we missing when we see, just to be more and more, real about it, when we pass someone on the street that obviously has mental
Yeah.
situation, when we have people, of course, in our life personally, what are we missing?
Brother, that's a great question. And this is gonna sound trite. So if you give me a chance to explain,
No, please.
what
Yeah.
we're missing is love. And it sounds so cliche. But when you think about walking down the street and you see somebody coming towards you that appears to be talking to someone that's not there, and
Hmm.
they don't have a Bluetooth phone and they don't have earplugs in their ears, so you know it's not a conversation on their phone. All
Hmm.
right. What your average person does is walk to the other side of the street. What the average person does is look at that individual, become fearful because they don't understand what's going on. And generally, when we look at others and outside of ourselves and see something that is unfamiliar to us, the reason we have become fearful is because we are afraid of something that could touch us, something that could impact us.
Come on now.
And so it's really all about, we're always in our own minds and in our own space, and we rarely take the time to enter into the space of others. We rarely take the time to engage, especially those that appear different from us, that
Hmm.
may be looking like they have different challenges, that may be looking like they're on the downside of life. And so a lot of times it's because of stigma. And
Hmm.
you'll hear that word a lot with me, the
Hmm.
stigma of mental illness, but also the fear that's within us when we
Hmm.
encounter individuals
Hmm.
that are struggling with something different that is unknown to us. And
Hmm.
generally, human nature, when there's something we don't recognize and something we don't know, we fear
Hmm.
it. We fear it. And so the short answer to your question is fear, and that internal concern about, if I get too close to something or someone that has something different than me, then I'm going to have a problem. And
Hmm.
so and that's why when you see people that kind of mourn when folks have different challenges, the way people support each other changes depending on what the person is struggling with.
Hmm.
And when you talk about mental illness, it's really the stigma, that doesn't, it's not carried with other medical issues. When people get sick medically, it doesn't have the same stigma as when someone has a mental health challenge.
Wow. Okay. Now, and hey, come on now. Brother, I gotta say, I'm not worried about a time difference. If
Mhm.
I want you to take us to school, Doc, and
Okay.
me included, all of our people, because I've learned over my 54 years what my lane is, and
Okay.
to be comfortable in my lane, meaning
Mhm.
that in this whole lane or development of mental, or this whole issue of arena of mental health, my lane is my lane, meaning that when we were first confronted with it, my family and I,
Mhm.
we were so okay. What can I? Fear, confusion, misunderstanding, anger,
Mhm.
irritability,
Yeah.
um, uh, the fear thing, the fear factor
Yes.
from the family member looking on.
Yes.
And when I preface this, I mean that I can only go on what I've experienced,
Right.
because I've always never been somebody, never sat with a gavel on anybody's life. I can't judge
Hmm.
anybody.
Hmm.
So I know how it affected me and mine. So I'm like, and then when we went to started certain classes and groups, self-help groups in the city, and we started interacting with people, man, that we said, wow, the stories they're giving are the same ones we're understanding.
Yeah.
And this, and then when our person's mental health issue, the fact that our irritability doctor came into, why can't they just take the medication?
Yeah.
Why can't they just stop doing this?
Yeah.
What is that we're missing?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Vic, and I'm glad you asked it in that way because I want to take our audience briefly
Please.
into the mind and the shoes of
Yes.
individual
Yeah.
struggling with their mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this. Imagine talking to somebody and everything's going fine, and life is, whatever it is for you, you get everybody's got their struggles and their triumphs and whatever, and this person who you respect and care for, your family, your
Mm-hmm.
friends, the people you've grew up and having a relationship with, they suddenly start trying to tell you that the sky is green,
Yeah.
and you're like, well, no, all my life the sky has been blue, the sky will always be blue, and let's step outside and see that the sky is blue.
Mm-hmm.
And they're telling you, no, the sky is green. How
Mm-hmm.
likely is it, Vic, that you would be convinced after all your experience in life, after everything that you've been through, after all that you know to be true, how likely is it that they could convince you that the sky is green?
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Not likely.
Okay, not likely. And
Mm-hmm.
so the individual who's now suddenly experiencing things differently has a different external stimulus that
Mm.
doesn't match the internal stimulus. And family and friends who they used to trust and think, well, no, they usually have my best interest, but they're telling me things that don't make sense. They're trying to tell me something is wrong with how I'm seeing the world. And I know that the world is still the way it used to be. Now I'm confused about the world, but I don't know that the confusion is on my part.
Mm.
I think it's on your part.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna have a hard time convincing me that what I'm seeing and experiencing is something in on me. And so then they start to go through the world not trusting the individuals they used to trust
Come on
because
now.
you're telling them something that doesn't make sense anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And they're telling you things that don't make sense to you. And
Wow.
so even though we're using the same words, if we're both speaking the same language, we have a misunderstanding. As Bernie Mac said, we have a misunderstanding on the spot,
A spot. Right.
right? Because it's not that our language is different, it's that our
Mm-hmm.
interpretation, our perception, and how we connect those words to our own individual experiences have changed. And
Mm.
so the reality has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Their reality has changed. Your reality is now changed because of their change. And
Yes.
now
Yeah.
we have a misunderstanding. And so family members become frustrated. The
Mm-hmm.
individual is frustrated
Yes.
because we can't communicate anymore.
Mm.
You cannot convince me that what is happening is on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the medication issue that you brought up, if I don't think there's something wrong, and if I think you're trying to pull one over on me, why would I take this medication
Right.
when I think there's something wrong with the rest of y'all? I
Mm-hmm.
think there's something wrong with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm confused and I'm upset and I'm angry because people are trying to convince me that something has changed and I don't know what it is.
Look at that.
So
Yeah.
if I put myself in the shoes of the individual that
Mm.
everybody's trying to help, God bless them, we all trying to help them. That
Come on.
individual is feeling pressured. They're
Fantastic.
feeling put up on. They're
Mm-hmm.
feeling like you selling them a bill of goods. They're
Mm-hmm.
feeling like you don't know my situation. You can't possibly understand what I'm trying to tell you. Why can't you understand what I'm trying to tell you?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the positive part.
Come on.
Positive part is eventually they figure out, okay, I don't understand what you're saying, but I know you love me.
Ha!
Huh?
Back to the love option.
Back to the love. I know
Right.
you love me. And so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to have to trust you that every time I push you away, you still there.
Right.
Every time we get into a conflict or a situation that turns into a misunderstanding, you come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the love. That's the positive piece. So even though the individual does not understand the difference between the external stimuli and the internal stimuli,
Mm-hmm.
what they have to rely upon is the relationship.
Come on now.
That's what's going to help you work through this for
Mm-hmm.
the both of you. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually you will trust each other to take this journey, this difficult journey
Mm-hmm.
together.
There you go. Man, right on, right on, right on. And this is just coming from the layman's feel. That that's it. That's it, man. I know that for anybody else that's watching this right now who digs what I'm saying from the outside looking in, that explained and put so much in perspective, man. Because I'm just wondering now, from we through a lot of our, not just our loved ones, but the person going through the mental health ordeal, who's
Mhm.
had the or may not even been diagnosed or what have you. Is there a part, what makes them turn to the self-medicating
Yeah.
part of this illness? Where does that even, so if they're not doing the medication that they're
Mhm.
prescribed
Mhm.
medically,
Mhm.
then why is it easier, or why do most go to the non-subscribed pharmaceuticals? You
That's an excellent
know what I'm
question. Yeah, 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 man. Well, let me ask this question.
Go ahead.
For those people who are not suffering with mental illness,
Come on.
why do they go to the
Exactly.
non-prescribed
Exactly. Exactly.
self-medication?
Right.
And,
Yeah, right, 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 right,
huh?
right.
So it's
I'll,
human nature to
mhm.
try to cure oneself,
There you go.
right?
Gotcha, man.
Because I don't want to, if I sign up for this other thing,
Yeah.
which is a doctor's prescription, if I sign up for classes and go
Yeah.
into the office, then
Office.
I'm saying
Yeah.
something's wrong with me, huh?
I
And then
got you.
that's where that stigma comes back in.
Okay.
But if
Okay.
I just chill like everybody else and grab me a drink or smoke a blunt or whatever it is your choice.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are polysubstance users because they trying to find the right combination, not because they have a feeling like this is going to cure my situation. No, they're smarter than that.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to get some temporary relief.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get a break from this reality that is no longer real. They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to get they're taking a time out from
Mm-hmm.
this confusion, from this chaos,
Mm-hmm.
this pain. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what self-medication is. And whether you have a mental illness or you just going through a divorce or
Mm-hmm.
or your kids ain't on the right, you and your kids ain't on the right page, or you got fired from your job, or you dealing with pain because of an auto accident,
Mm-hmm.
all the reasons people self-medicate are not different because of mental illness. If
Mm-hmm.
anything, they join the rest of the world who thinks a pill will cure it, a drink will solve it, all those things. And so in that instance, people with mental illness are no different than the rest of us who are seeking a temporary vacation from pain.
I gotcha. So it's, in other words, and that brings that reality back of what you were saying before, that we all are just trying to deal with what we dealing with,
Yes.
and are, I don't know, I mean, some, like you said, because I have been and will possibly still sometimes be, I'm just being real, that I
Hmm.
will find myself medication sometimes.
Yeah.
I will find it, whether it's, it doesn't necessarily have to be substance, it doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily have to be that, but it could be the, I don't know, the ignorance of something, the
It
stepping
could be
away
food.
from something. It could be food, and I love to cook. But and what you said. So when they, meaning the diagnosed,
Hmm.
deal with that running of self medication, doc,
Hmm.
this, like, and wow, that was so powerful, because now that enlightenment gives me the holistic approach, that not just the diagnosed ones, but even quote unquote us who aren't diagnosed yet of whatever it is that we dealing with, right?
Right.
So, but we still, if we're not, our weaknesses, our self medications or whatever,
Yeah.
can make us fall into line with doing certain things that could possibly jeopardize our life, our
Yeah.
freedom, our relationship with the family members. And there are some family members or close friends who are dealing with that they just say, "Hey, my hands are up. I
Right.
can't do anything else. I may love them, but I can't be around them." So
Hmm.
that person who doesn't have that diagnosed one, who doesn't have that direct connection where they can be reminded that
Hmm.
they are loved, that seems like even a darker feel for that person.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And let me just say, and not to get into names or diagnoses, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that's important for the audience. I think what's important is when you're talking about the most serious psychotic disorders, meaning that you are not in your right mind in reality, to use
Right.
layman's terms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. These are divided into threes. And what I can tell you is a third of the individuals who find themselves having a break from reality, okay, generally recover on their own.
Mm.
And we don't know why. There's another third that do better and really get their foundation back with medication.
Okay.
Okay. And then there's a third that, regardless of the medication, we have not been able to get them back to their baseline of who they were, their behavior. So there's a third that get better on their own. There's a third that with medication, they get better. And then there's that third that we are probably talking about, which is the ones that are still trying to get it together.
Gotcha.
Okay. And so the family member gets frustrated and upset because they see self-destructive behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
and they worry.
Okay.
You know what I've been doing for the last 25 years. I've been working with folks coming in and out of
Come
jail
on now.
and
That's
in and
right.
out of psychiatric hospitalization.
That's right.
So you hit on it, Vic, when you said
Yeah.
sometimes when you are not in your right mind and you won't take your medication and you cannot trust the people who you used to trust, family members who love you, you may engage in behaviors that are not helpful. But more importantly, this is where the world that I live in.
Come
You
on.
may engage in behaviors that get you arrested.
Yes.
You may engage in behaviors that get you incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
You may engage in behaviors that get you involuntarily committed to a psychiatric facility.
There you go.
Okay. And then with those individuals, when they get out and they're back in the community or they go back to their homes, they again do not understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the family member is confused about what changed, the individual is confused too about what changed and why are you treating me differently?
Mm-hmm.
They don't get it either. And so the self-medication combined with the self-destructive behaviors and really going in that direction that could get you into some major trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That's when family members throw up their hands.
Gotcha.
It didn't happen overnight. Most family members are hanging in there, man. They're patient. They do the best they can. This is over a period of years.
Mm-hmm.
When the family members, not all, some,
Mm-hmm.
will say, you know what, I can't do nothing else.
Yeah.
No different than the individuals that's addicted to drugs or alcohol. They say, I can't give you no more money. I can't keep bailing you out of jail.
Mm-hmm.
All of those reactions are because the caregiver is exhausted.
Gotcha.
The caregiver is exhausted. But let me just remind our audience, the individual that's diagnosed, they exhausted too.
They exhausted too.
They exhausted too. And that's where that love, that's where that love will help us get through that challenge, because just like family members, man, we don't always agree on things, but you and your brothers, your sisters, y'all have your little argument, and then you okay.
There you go.
Right? Because of the love.
Uh-huh.
And that's what we have to remember, that this person, even though you don't recognize them in their true self, that's still your friend, that's still your family member, that's still your brother, that's still your spouse, whoever that person is. And that's the challenge of what you're asking, Vic, is that people are doing the best they can. And as long as we still love, there is an opportunity for them to recognize themselves in your love.
There you go. Gotcha.
They may not recognize themselves in the mirror, but they might recognize themselves in your love. And that is a very challenging situation for us, and that's why it takes patience.
Come on, man. I don't know if you saw the question that just popped up, but it's perfect because it's going along with where I was about to go.
Okay.
Wyann is asking, do you notice any correlation or pattern in the thirds you were mentioning, the three different folks from each population? Is there a difference? Is there a correlation?
Well, what I would say is that because we don't know why people get better on their own, it's hard to then say what the correlation would be.
Okay.
And so I would be remiss to start going down that road of, well, this person has different DNA than that other person, all that, because that really gets us to a complicated conversation that frankly is not in my area. What I would say the correlation is that we all are unique in our experiences in the world. And we are all unique in how we see the world and perceive the world. And so if I'm looking at something as complicated as hormonal changes, or I'm looking at something as complicated as the chemical balance in our brain, body, and so my experience with this particular mental health challenge is not going to be the same as your experience.
Gotcha.
I'll give you an example. Let's go to something called like depression. Okay. Depression is something that most of your audience is familiar with on some level. Okay. Some people, when they experience depression, are so down and depressed that they can't get out of bed. They just sleep all the time, and they can't eat and all that. Other people who experience depression, right? They don't sleep at all.
Mm-hmm.
So on the one hand, the symptom for depression may be
Hmm.
insomnia. For
Mm-hmm.
another person, the symptom of depression may be can't get out of bed sleeping all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Some people, they don't have an appetite. Other people, they're eating everything ain't nailed down.
Yeah.
So everybody experiences these challenges in their own unique way, even though there are some general things that we can say as a profession that
Mm-hmm.
this fits into the symptomatology of depression. And
Okay.
so going back to those thirds, and so when
Mm-hmm.
I look at those thirds of people with psychotic disorder,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we do not have enough when I say we, I mean the medical profession and I mean psychologists. We
Okay.
do not have enough information or experience or expertise to understand the full intricacies of the brain.
Okay.
Even your best neurologist has to back up and say, well, I don't know it all.
Okay.
Okay. Even your best neuroscience has
Mm-hmm.
to back up and say, well, I've studied for 50 years, but I don't know it all.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna look, but that point in itself, there
Yeah.
are so many of us right now sitting like this
Yeah.
because on the outside looking in, we're like, hey, they got it all, whatever they need.
No,
That's
brother.
part of our thing. So now this realism you're giving me and so many others, it's like, yeah,
That's
okay, we
that's why they call it that's why they call it medical practice, Vic.
medical practice.
Okay?
Oh
Because the
man,
doctors
right,
and the
right.
nurses,
Uh-huh.
the doctor, she's doing the best she can too.
Yeah,
Why do you
yeah.
think doctors walk around with those big, huge books in their pocket?
Okay,
And they got these
okay.
reference books and they got these reference notes
Right, right.
because they can't possibly remember everything they need to remember about said disease, said disorder, said cure, said implement. So they walk around and they study and they read.
Uh-huh.
And so the brain, the person who created the brain was so much smarter than us.
Okay. Right, right. And exactly, exactly, exactly. And
Okay.
has the answer to it all. But
Right.
but let me ask you this, Doc.
Uh-huh.
You brought up the you described the person with who's suffering with the mental illness, that it's
Yes.
a confusement state for them, not
Yes.
really understanding what it is that's happening to them.
Mhm.
Then you have the family and friends who are just as confused on their side.
Yes.
Then you have society as a whole who is
Yes.
confused, walking down the street, crossing the street,
Yeah.
which is trust all, we all see that.
Hmm.
Now, if that person does something, their mental illness or lack of taking their medication, whatever, lands them in jail,
Hmm.
that confusement that they've never really been able to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing in the first place.
Hmm.
I don't feel I was, as soon as I was born, ready to say, I've got I'm going to have a mental illness and I'm going to do something to put me in jail.
Hmm.
They end up in prison because of something that they could not control. Am I right? I mean, this is a non. So
Yes.
what happens to them once they're incarcerated? They're now in jail. How the hell did I get here based on what I did or didn't do?
Yeah.
And what's happening in the system, in the prison system, which you've been doing for so long.
Yes.
But for those of us who've been outside, personally affected by that,
Hmm.
what happens to that individual? Do they go further into a funk where
Man,
they can't get out of, or what's happening, brother?
yeah, that's an excellent question, Vic. And you see, you could probably see my body language and the look on my face as you were asking that
Huh?
question because it's painful.
Come on now.
It's painful. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't understand what's going on in the world
Mm-hmm.
because you have now a break in reality, how can you possibly
Mm-hmm.
understand what's going on behind bars? That is a
Mm.
whole different environment. It's a whole different culture.
Mm-hmm.
And to answer your question bluntly, they are not safe.
Okay.
They are not safe. The
Okay.
reason they are not safe is because it doesn't take a genius to figure out that this person who is now in this space doesn't belong here, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number
Mm-hmm.
two, appears vulnerable.
Yeah.
And number three, how can I best take advantage of this situation?
Mm-hmm.
That's the mindset behind bars. And so
Okay.
if you have a person behind bars with a mental illness that has not been treated and is unresolved, then they
Mm-hmm.
become vulnerable in all three of those areas.
Mm-hmm.
They become a victim of circumstance. And so
Okay.
to your point, when an individual is behind bars because of something that is not of their own doing, meaning they were not in their right mind when they did A, B, C, or D, whatever that might be.
Right.
Okay, it doesn't absolve you from the fact that you may have broken the law. But being behind bars incarcerated is not the place to start. The first
Mm-hmm.
thing we need to do is get you some treatment so that we can get you to your baseline of behavior, so that we can ascertain what the situation is. Because at the end of the day, treatment can help us so that you won't commit those crimes again. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a difference between people who are behind bars because of just their, trying to survive and trying to do what they're trying to do. Individuals who may not have been able to think through their behavior that caused them to be back there. So there's a lot of different reasons why people are incarcerated. But
Mm-hmm.
when you are incarcerated because of a behavior that you would not have done, or you would not have manifest if it had not been for your mental illness, it is a most sad situation to see them behind bars. That's
Mm-hmm.
why the most of my last 20 years, man, I've been working to decriminalize mental illness.
Come on now.
That's the work I've been doing in
Decriminalize
Philadelphia.
mental illness.
Yeah,
Come on.
decriminalize mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
because I understand, and the people who work behind on the front lines understand that if not for this situation, they
Yes.
would not be in prison.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so the example, the vast majority of people that are behind bars have some connection to substance use or abuse. Let me just say that.
I got you.
Okay. So in any given, if I give you the national data, Vic,
Okay.
about 15 to 24% of the people behind bars may have a serious mental illness.
What was that percentage?
About 15% to 24%, depending on where you are. And I'm talking about jails, which are county jails, and
Mm-hmm.
prisons, which are state prisons or penitentiaries. And that goes up and even into the feds.
Okay. Okay.
Now, most of the people who are behind bars, the crime is somehow connected to substance use or abuse. That could be trafficking. It could be you committed a crime where you were high or drunk. It could be you were doing something, got you connected to the justice system because of drugs or alcohol. If
Mm-hmm.
you add on top of that a mental illness and
Mm-hmm.
you're self-medicating, the individuals that are in that situation are much more likely to find themselves in prison or jail,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have the sophistication to avoid the sweeps of law enforcement that come through the neighborhood picking up people who are doing whatever they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So to your question about what happens to a person that is behind bars that has a mental illness, it's not pretty.
Mm-hmm.
They're vulnerable. They become victims. They're mistreated.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, they may not be getting the medication that they would get if they were in the general community or in a hospital. Now,
Gotcha.
that's not to say that the prisons don't have hospitals and clinics, they do. But I'm saying that is not the optimal place to treat an individual
Gotcha.
that has a medical condition.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go to prison to get your medical services. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, you know what? That right there is that point, Doc, is a another because many of us who are dealing with this as a friend or family member, they can validate that point right there, the unknown, which gets into a whole nother umbrella of enabling. Are we on the phone too much? What can we do to stop that person from even going to jail? Hey,
Right.
if you keep doing that, you're going to end up in blah, 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 blah. And I remember talking to so many other friends who, the NAMI program,
Yes.
incredible out here. Incredible.
Yes.
That's what helped in so many things of understanding and then realizing that once they are have been incarcerated or in jail, prison, oh, well, they have the mental health ward in
Mm-hmm.
prison. Oh, this is what's coming back from the court system. Oh, well, don't worry about it. They have this. They have the medication that's this. Da, 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 da. So the unknown of us on the outside, you've just put it into a realism, man, that just answered it directly to what a lot of us still didn't understand and don't understand. You know?
Yeah, man. And the thing is, every system, every prison system is different. I've worked in county jails, which I still do, and I work on the state level penitentiaries, and I've worked in psychiatric hospitals. And what
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you is there's always going to be a difference when you go from system to system and jurisdiction to jurisdiction. That's a given. But in terms of the prison system, especially in those areas where they're privatizing prisons, and I don't want to get into a political discussion
Yeah,
about
I got you.
privatization versus, but what I'm saying is that
Mm-hmm.
you are not going to receive the same level of care, follow up, and all those things as you do if you're in the community getting services there. I
Right.
think another important thing, and I want to just acknowledge Talif Shaw that signed in,
Please,
good
because I
friend.
the
Yeah,
lineup on my
yeah,
side.
and she talks about medication management, which we call MAT, medical medication assisted treatment, MAT, and psychotherapy being the combination. And Talif, you are absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm.
And what she's really saying is that just being on medication does not work for everybody. just doing psychotherapy does not work for everybody. It's that combination that Talith is talking about. And I agree with her 100%. And that is what we call evidence-based practice. Best practices are that you receive psychotherapy and medication. And the medication is really to help you get to a baseline of understanding and behavior so that then the therapy can work.
I
Because
got
if you're not in your right mind, the therapy ain't going to work.
Ain't gonna work. I
Right.
got you.
So the
I got
medication is to stabilize you, to get you to your
you.
baseline so that then therapy can work. So yes, Talib, great to see you
Thank
joining us, and just
you.
wanted to say that. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
man,
Lee.
yeah, that's
You
an
know what,
excellent.
Doc? I can, man, a lot of people may say, oh, this is heavy, but to the point of where there's some who may look at it like, oh, this is negative. No, it is heavy,
Yeah,
but it is real.
and we're not
And,
done yet.
but we're not done yet because what I want to say, what really I've given even more respect of your efforts, man, is the whole name of the book of your
Yeah,
book. The book
yeah.
is it just kind of it sums up everything that. But what I wanted to know more about, Dr. Gene, is how is that? Because I've been guilty of it. There is a spiritual uh, connection
Yes.
with the whole mental health topic.
Yeah.
So whether Christian, whether Jewish, whether agnostic,
Hmm.
whether you don't believe in anything,
Hmm.
how because you are the first that I've heard speak directly in detail of the
Hmm.
correlation between spirituality and mental health.
Yes.
What is that all about?
Well, I'm glad you asked,
Yeah.
because I work a lot in the Muslim community. I work in the Jewish community. When I say the community, I mean faith communities.
Okay.
I don't mean just individuals. I mean these communities bring me in to talk to them about health and wellness, the impact of trauma, all those things. And so the top four religious communities in the United States are, of course, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, and you have that group that make up 24 of 25%, which are nons. They call themselves nons, which
Mm-hmm.
means they don't adhere to any particular denomination, but they believe in God. And then, of course, you have the atheists and agnostics. The common denominator with all of us and our humanity
Mm-hmm.
is the holistic understanding that mind, body, and spirit is who we are.
Come on.
So the building that you go to is just a building.
There you go.
Your spirit is in here. And so we all have a spiritual core.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we all believe in something. Even the person that is a tribe that's off the island of Australia that has never seen another human being has a word for God. Okay, and
True.
they have a belief system.
Okay.
It may not be yours, and that's fine, but they have a core
Mm-hmm.
belief in something bigger than themselves. That's
Mm-hmm.
the first thing. And so when you put that into the consideration of health and wellness, what I'm really saying in the book is that it's not just our physical health. It's not just our psychological, emotional health. It's not even just our environmental health. It is also our spiritual health. And that core belief means that I am connected to the larger world called humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And whether I believe in a higher power or not is not as important as that I understand what I'm here to do and interact with others. We are interdependent. Human beings are interdependent,
Mm-hmm.
meaning we need each other. No man is an island. Isn't that what it says on
That's
the
right.
Statue of Liberty? Yeah, we all need each other. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I'm saying in the book is the best way to reconnect with who you are is to reconnect with your humanity. And
Okay.
it is to reconnect with the fact that you have a purpose here. And
Mm-hmm.
even those that have been diagnosed with a serious mental illness still have that same purpose. Their purpose hasn't been removed because they have been diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
No, their purpose is still, maybe their purpose is in the diagnosis.
Come on now.
Maybe their purpose is in the disorder. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I started off my conversation with you saying, I've met so many brilliant people
Yes.
that have been diagnosed,
Yeah.
and they're songwriters, they're artists, they're sculptors. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that's the correct term, but they
No,
make
I
things with
got
their
you.
hands.
Right,
you
right,
know,
right. They
you know,
sculpt things.
hey
Right.
man, you know what I mean? They're
I got you, brother.
comedians.
I
They're
got
comedians. They're engineers.
right,
They're
right.
doctors. They're
Yeah,
lawyers. They're
yeah.
they're homemakers.
Uh-huh.
Genius is not predicated on whether you have a solid mental health. And so this whole thing about mind, body, spirit that I'm talking about in the book is really to help people reconnect to the
Mm-hmm.
source of their power. Reconnect to the source of your power because there is something inside each of us. That's that miracle in you I'm talking about.
I got you.
Rediscover that miracle in you, because there is something unique about you that is not destroyed because of a mental illness.
Come on now. Come on now. Oh man. Find strength in your struggle
Yes,
is
sir.
the name of the book. Find strength. Find the strength in your struggle. Woo! If that doesn't speak to all of us outside of mental health, I don't know. I don't. I bring me a list that should be on it.
Yeah,
All of us, mental health, or the person who's diagnosed with mental health, it's so important for them, and your topics and points in your book. But then when you just explained it now, Doc, that could go for all of us.
yeah, yeah. What I tell people in the book and on my speaking engagements and all,
Yeah.
what I tell people is that we sometimes, and this is human nature,
Mm-hmm.
we spend a lot of time in our life trying to avoid struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think money will help you avoid struggle, and to some degree, they may be right.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? The rich and famous are struggling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every day.
Okay. All right. The top 1%, the
We're
Bill Gates of the
struggling.
world. I love
Yeah.
Bill Gates. God bless him. He
Right.
ain't without struggle.
There you go. That's
Okay.
right.
Just money ain't one of
That's
them.
right.
Okay? All
I
right.
know somebody else said 99
Yeah.
problems, right?
I think
But
that was
I got you.
Jay-Z. Right. So that
Right.
ain't one of them. Right. But the rest, but we all have struggles. So my reason for saying that is to not make light of struggle. My
No.
reason for writing about it in the book is to say, let's just get comfortable with the fact that life is full of struggle.
Come on now.
And
That's
let's put our energy into finding strength in
mm-hmm.
the struggle.
That's right.
Because if you spend your time and energy trying to avoid struggle, you're gonna be, one, it's futile, and two, you're gonna be very tired, which is
Got
why a lot of people are tired and they're
got
stressed out.
you.
The
Mm-hmm.
strength in your struggle is to find out what's the lesson.
Come on.
What's the lesson?
Which is the
How
miracle?
can Go ahead.
Which is the miracle you're saying?
Yes, that's
Got
the miracle in you.
okay.
And if we take time and slow down long enough to look back over our struggles and we're honest with ourselves,
Yeah.
we will see growth.
Come on now.
We will go back to a time and we'll come up with a situation where we didn't think we were gonna make it.
Come on now.
And
That's
look at us on that backside of that saying, I made it.
that's right.
Now,
That's
what did you learn? What did you learn?
uh-huh.
Huh? And now
That's
can you take that thing that you learned
mm-hmm.
and now can you use it for the next struggle? Because it's coming.
It's coming, man.
But guess
That's
what?
right.
Because you are not the same as you were
Uh,
before, you're gonna be better with that thing.
there you
Have
go.
you ever had something that kept visiting you until you got it right?
Come on now.
Huh?
Yesterday.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Right. And
That's
so the
right,
thing
brother.
is,
Yeah.
we are blessed to
Yeah.
have an opportunity to keep getting that challenge until we figure out the lesson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're not supposed to keep repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again. They have a definition for that, I think.
I
When you do
think
the
they
same
do.
thing over and over and you expect a
Right.
different result,
Right.
I'm not going to use the
Right.
term because that's not a psychological term. That's a legal term. So I'm
There.
not going to use it. But people
Okay.
know what we're saying. When you
Okay.
do the same thing
Right.
over and over
Right.
again and you expect
Right.
a different result, what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is define strength in your struggle is to find that the result is already in you.
There you go.
The miracle's already in you. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
reconnect with yourself and your source of power to
Mm-hmm.
recognize the strength in you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we
Mm-hmm.
can do that. So I don't spend time in the past except for what the lesson was.
Come on now. That's right.
I don't spend time worrying about the future
There you go.
because I have no control over it. The one point in time I got, Vic, is right now.
There you go,
Huh?
man. The power of right
The
now,
power
brother.
right now. So I
Power
take the
right now.
lessons. I
Yeah.
take the lessons from the past
Yeah.
and I use them for my current situation.
There
And I
you
learn from them so I don't repeat things in the
there you
future.
go. Can't do that, man.
But I can't worry about the past. It's gone.
Can't-
It's done.
It's gone. It's
And I
gone.
can't worry about the future because I don't have control over it.
That's right. And you
So
know
that's
what?
where that love comes from.
Dang, that love. That's what you just said. That's where that love comes from. And learning to love yourself, like the
Yeah.
song says, is the greatest love of all,
Yes.
man.
Yeah.
Because that self, even on a deeper, after your explanation now, loving that self of you is where that miracle of you is. And
Yes.
I know for me, and I'm gonna keep going back to personal because I don't like throwing it on everybody of
Hmm.
their thing. If you dig it, you dig it, you understand it, you understand it, you
Right.
connect with me, you
Yeah.
connect with me.
Yeah.
I can just speak on my life and
Hmm.
what I had to come through, my self-doubts in life,
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
my my reason for not doing certain things in life, my falling into self-medicating at a period of my life.
Hmm.
I prefer to say God brought me through that.
Watch out
And
now.
here's my positivity of what you just opened up that whole you brought it to the
Yeah.
positivity that it can be done.
Yes.
My struggle that I did personally through my life, those of
Yes.
you who know me personally, you know it. If you don't, you don't. If you
Yes.
speculate it, you did your thing. But I can't judge you for that neither. But what I'm saying is everything you just did and said to us solidified even to me, gave me a praise positivity moment.
Yes, sir. So let me ask you a question, Vic.
You know what? Hey, this is what it is.
Let me ask you a question.
Talk to me, brother.
Every time you step on stage,
yes,
and there's a mic in front of you,
right,
and you think about how you're going to deliver, what God has put in you to deliver.
Okay.
Do you reach down? Do you not reach down into the gut of your experience, where you have found strength in your struggle?
Gotcha.
And then what comes out of your mouth blesses somebody.
Yeah.
Whether it is in Brooklyn, whether it is in Australia, whether it is in Raleigh, whether it is in LA,
yeah. There was a time, brother.
Whether you're on Ipanema Beach.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The bottom line is,
yeah,
what you are sharing with your audience is what you've learned from your struggle.
There you go.
And the people who hear it are experiencing Vic's strength in the struggle. It just so happens you're singing about it. You're writing about it. You're sharing all those learnings that you had, and you're doing it in music. Other people are doing it in poetry. Other people are doing it in other ways. And so whatever God has put in you, that's the miracle. And so tapping into that love, and that's why your positivity posse, that's why you have that, because you are sharing with your audience what you've learned about struggle.
There you go, brother.
That's why when you open your mouth, people get blessed.
I got you, man. And you know what, Gene? And that's real, man, because, hey, man, there was a time I ain't even, just so far away from me. But when that time came where I had to say, wait a minute, boom, no, brother. That struggle was not wasted.
Right.
Of what you're saying.
Yes.
All of the pain, all of the misunderstanding, all of the inner stuff was not wasted. Correct. And that's where I was getting stuck in that mire of it's wasted. This is going, but no, that miracle of positivity that in your book and what your mission is about, that struggle took me through.
Yeah.
Gave me my praise back and gave me my mission back.
Yes.
And I can't do nothing but be a part of the positivity posse.
So here's the thing. Now that you got it back, and this is what you're sharing with your audience, and this is what I try to share with my audience when I talk to them.
That's right.
What's your responsibility now?
The responsibility is to keep this positivity going through this artistry that God has blessed with.
Using your platform.
There you go. The platform here. I had no idea this was going to be what it is.
And each one of your audience, the audience, they have their own platform.
Have their own platform. That's right.
Use it.
That's right. That's right.
One of my favorite sayings, Vic, from Mark Twain. The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why.
There you go. Totally agree.
When you find out why,
yeah,
there ain't no stopping you. Not a mental illness.
That's right.
Not a substance abuse problem.
Y'all hear that, folks?
Not a bad relationship. Not a fired from a job.
There you go.
When you discover why you're here, the doors open up for you. Your mind clears. You become that's what you were here to do.
That's right.
Okay, because at the end of the day, our humanity, this love, this positivity posse that we're talking about is all intertwined in what we said earlier about being interconnected and interdependent.
Yeah.
That's why I can't walk across the street when I see bro walking down toward me.
No.
Out of sorts.
That's right. Can't do that.
That's why your brother Chris, sat down and talked to many
There you
people
go. That's right.
on the
That's
streets of Philadelphia that other folks wouldn't talk to.
That's right, brother. And that's a good point, Gene. And I know I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but
Okay.
I know that you brought out a good point. Our upbringing, we saw that evident in mom and dad.
Yes.
We never knew. There were times growing up, we didn't know who was going to be at the Sunday morning breakfast table.
Right.
We didn't know. And our poor sister Julie, her room was the stopover. It was
Okay.
the bed when no one had a bed. It was
Mhm.
Our table was a table when people didn't have a food to eat.
Mhm. Mhm.
But we didn't. They were strangers to us. But
Mhm.
through we call a ministry of mom and dad
Mhm.
and our grandparents that showed us. Wait a minute. This thing called life is bigger than you.
Yeah.
You get into a realm which so many of us have that we start to think this life we've been blessed to live on a daily basis is just about us.
Right.
That's the biggest crock on earth. That's a lesson that I and so many other people are so happy we've learned
Yeah.
because that brings a sense of peace. When I go in my pocket to try to help somebody out, it ain't because I'm feeling nothing. No, it's because this life is bigger than us.
Right. Right.
You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, Dr. Gene,
Yes,
man,
sir.
thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Man.
Spreading the positivity, ladies and gentlemen, a charter member,
Yes.
Positivity Posse.
Man, thank you
I've
for
known
having
all
me.
my life. Look at that
Man,
smile. See what I'm saying?
thank you for having me, man. This has been a blast.
It's been a blast. It's been real. I love you, man.
Love you
Thank you
back.
for all you're doing, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, man. All right.
Yes. All right.